On June 14, 1997, 16-year-old Jennifer Lynn Patterson disappeared from Cedar Falls, Iowa. Her 1989 Honda Civic was discovered at 7:15 a.m. the following morning in the parking lot of Lincoln High School. Doors locked, her backpack visible on the passenger seat. Cedar Falls Police Department officers found no signs of struggle. Case number 97-1847 went cold on November 3, 1997, after a 142-day investigation failed to identify any viable suspects. In September 2022, 25 years after Jennifer's disappearance, cold case detective Michael Reynolds reopened the investigation using advanced genealogical DNA technology. DNA extracted from a single strand of hair found in Jennifer's vehicle produced a match through a public genealogy database. The profile belonged to someone who had been considered above suspicion during the original investigation. What investigators would discover about this individual's relationship to the victim would expose a pattern of predatory behavior that had remained hidden for over 2 decades. This case represents one of the first successful applications of forensic genealogy in Iowa and demonstrates how DNA technology combined with traditional detective work can solve cases that seemed impossible to crack. It is also a story about how a trusted community member exploited that trust with devastating consequences, and how scientific advancement finally brought accountability. Subscribe to our channel for more cold case investigations and hit the notification bell to stay updated on new cases. The victim. Jennifer Lynn Patterson was born on March 3, 1981, at Allen Memorial Hospital in Cedar Falls. According to birth records on file with Black Hawk County, she was the second child of Thomas and Margaret Patterson. Her older brother David was 4 years her senior. School records from Cedar Falls Community School District show that Jennifer attended Orchard Hill Elementary from 1987 to 1993. Her academic file contains 6 years of report cards indicating consistent B+ average grades. In a 1992 parent-teacher conference form signed by her 4th grade teacher, Linda Morrison, the notation reads, "Jennifer shows strong aptitude in creative writing and enjoys reading above grade level. She is thoughtful and well-liked by her peers." In September 1993, Jennifer enrolled at Holmes Junior High School. According to attendance records, she missed only 7 days during her entire 3-year enrollment, all documented with medical notes. Her 8th grade English teacher, Robert Caldwell, wrote in her 1996 end-of-year evaluation, "Jennifer has demonstrated exceptional skill in analytical essay writing. She participates actively in class discussions and has a natural leadership quality that encourages other students to engage more deeply with the material." In the fall of 1996, Jennifer began her sophomore year at Lincoln High School. According to the student directory maintained by the school office, she was enrolled in Honors English 2, Algebra 2, World History, Biology, and Spanish 2. Her guidance counselor, Patricia Evans, maintained detailed notes on college-bound students. In Jennifer's file, dated October 15, 1996, Evans wrote, "Jennifer expressed interest in journalism programs at University of Iowa or Northwestern. Her writing portfolio is strong. Recommended she join the school newspaper staff junior year." Jennifer's involvement in extracurricular activities is documented in multiple school records. The Lincoln High Yearbook from 1996-1997 lists her as a member of the Drama Club and the school's literary magazine, the Cedar Review. In an interview conducted by our team in November 2022, Drama Club advisor Susan Mitchell recalled Jennifer's participation. "She was in our fall production of Our Town. She played one of the townspeople, a smaller role, but she was always at rehearsals, always prepared. She helped with set design for the spring musical, though she disappeared before we staged it." According to payroll records from the Cedar Falls Public Library, Jennifer had been employed as a part-time library assistant since September 1996. Her supervisor, head librarian Dorothy Jang, maintained personnel files that show Jennifer worked every Tuesday and Thursday from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturday mornings from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. In a statement to police on June 16, 1997, Jang described Jennifer as punctual, responsible, and genuinely interested in helping library patrons. She never missed a shift without advance notice. Jennifer's daily routine, as reconstructed from witness statements collected during the original investigation, followed a consistent pattern. She left home each weekday at 7:15 a.m. to drive to Lincoln High School, a 2.3-mile journey according to city records. School started at 7:45 a.m. On the 3 days per week she didn't work at the library, she typically arrived home around 3:30 p.m. On Tuesday and Thursday evenings, she would drive directly from school to the library, located on Main Street, arriving by 3:55 p.m. Physical evidence logs from June 1997 describe Jennifer as 5 feet 4 inches tall, weighing approximately 118 pounds, with shoulder-length brown hair and hazel eyes. The missing person report filed by Thomas Patterson on June 14, 1997, at 10:47 p.m., noted she was last seen wearing a white Lincoln High School Drama Club t-shirt, blue jeans, and white Nike sneakers. Friends interviewed during the initial investigation painted a picture of a typical teenage girl navigating high school social dynamics. In a statement given to Detective Sarah Morrison on June 16, 1997, Jennifer's best friend, Amanda Chen, stated, "Jen was really excited about summer. We were planning to work on the school newspaper together next year. She wanted to be editor by senior year. She was focused on her college applications, thinking about journalism schools." Another close friend, Rebecca Walsh, told police on June 17, 1997, "Jennifer didn't party or get into trouble. She was kind of serious about school, but in a good way. She always had a book with her. We'd hang out at the mall sometimes. Normal stuff. She wasn't dating anyone that I knew of. She seemed happy." According to telephone records subpoenaed during the investigation, Jennifer made regular calls to Amanda Chen's home number and had called Rebecca Walsh's house 3 times in the week before her disappearance. The last outgoing call from the Patterson home phone was made at 6:23 p.m. on June 13, 1997, to Amanda Chen's residence. The conversation lasted 23 minutes, according to phone company records. In an interview with our team in October 2022, Amanda Chen, now Amanda Richardson, a middle school teacher in Des Moines, shared her memories. "That last phone call we had, we were talking about summer plans, movies we wanted to see. Nothing seemed wrong. She seemed totally normal, making plans for the weekend. When I found out she was missing the next night, I kept thinking I should have noticed something, but there was nothing to notice. She was just Jen." Jennifer's parents described their daughter in similar terms in multiple interviews with police. Margaret Patterson told Detective Morrison on June 15, 1997, "Jennifer was responsible. She always let us know where she was going. She never gave us any reason to worry. This is completely unlike her." Thomas Patterson, in the same interview, stated, "She had goals. She wanted to go to college, become a journalist. She worked hard at school, at her library job. She was saving money for college. She had $740 in her savings account at Community Bank. She wouldn't just leave." Bank records obtained through warrant on June 18, 1997, confirmed Jennifer's savings account balance. The account showed regular deposits from the Cedar Falls Public Library, corresponding to her work schedule. The last deposit, made on June 11, 1997, was for $84.50, representing her previous week's wages. The last confirmed sighting of Jennifer Patterson alive occurred at 7:22 p.m. on June 13, 1997. According to the case file, witness Elizabeth Hartman, a neighbor who lived 3 houses down from the Patterson residence at 847 Sunset Drive, was walking her dog when she saw Jennifer getting into her car in the driveway. Hartman told police on June 16, 1997. "I waved at her, and she waved back. She got in her car and backed out. I didn't think anything of it. Just a normal Friday evening." This would be the last confirmed sighting of Jennifer Lynn Patterson. What happened after she drove away from her family home that June evening would remain unknown for 25 years. The disappearance. According to the incident report filed by Officer Kevin Martinez of the Cedar Falls Police Department, Thomas and Margaret Patterson reported their daughter missing at 10:47 p.m. on June 14, 1997. The report, case number 97-1847, documents that Jennifer had not returned home after leaving the previous evening. In their initial statement taken by Officer Martinez at the Patterson residence, Margaret Patterson explained the timeline. "Jennifer told us she was going to the Cedar Falls Library around 7:15 p.m. last night. She said she needed to check out some books for a summer reading assignment. The library closes at 9:00 p.m. on Fridays. We expected her home by 9:15 or 9:20 at the latest. When she wasn't home by 9:30, I called her pager. She didn't call back. By 10, Thomas drove to the library to look for her. It was closed and dark. Her car wasn't in the parking lot." Thomas Patterson's statement continued the timeline. "I drove around downtown, checked the parking lots at the mall, drove past her friends' houses. Her car wasn't anywhere. I came home, and we started calling her friends. Nobody had seen her. That's when we called the police." Officer Martinez's report notes that he conducted an initial investigation beginning at 11:15 p.m. on June 14, 1997. He drove to the Cedar Falls Public Library at 524 Main Street and confirmed the building was closed and dark. No vehicles were in the parking lot. He checked the surrounding area within a 3-block radius. No sign of Jennifer's 1989 Honda Civic, license plate Iowa KSM 847, was located. According to police dispatch records, at 7:08 a.m. on June 15, 1997, Cedar Falls Police received a call from Officer Lisa Thompson reporting the discovery of an abandoned vehicle in the Lincoln High School parking lot. The vehicle was identified as Jennifer Patterson's Honda Civic through license plate verification. Officer Thompson secured the scene and requested detective response. Detective Sarah Morrison arrived at Lincoln High School at 7:32 a.m., according to her activity log. In her initial report filed later that day, Morrison documented her observations. The vehicle, a tan 1989 Honda Civic, was parked in the northeast corner of the student parking lot in space number 147. The vehicle was locked. The driver's side window allowed visual inspection of the interior. A blue JanSport backpack was visible on the passenger seat. No signs of damage to the exterior were observed. No apparent blood or disturbance inside the vehicle. Detective Morrison requested a warrant to search the vehicle, which was granted by District Court Judge Robert Hammond at 10:15 a.m. The warrant, filed in Black Hawk County Court records, authorized comprehensive search and evidence collection from the Honda Civic. Crime scene technician David Reynolds processed the vehicle beginning at 11 a.m. on June 15, 1997. His evidence log, maintained in the case file, details the items recovered. Item 1. Blue JanSport backpack containing 3 textbooks, Algebra 2, World History, Biology, a spiral notebook with class notes, a pencil case, and a student ID card belonging to Jennifer Patterson. Item 2. A leather wallet found in the center console containing Jennifer's driver's license, $23 in cash, a community bank ATM card, and a library card. Item 3. A keychain with 4 keys attached, found in the ignition. The keys included 2 house keys, a car key, and a locker key. Item 4. A CD case on the passenger side floor containing 6 compact discs of various artists popular in 1997. Item 5. Fingerprint evidence lifted from the driver's side door handle, exterior, steering wheel, and gear shift. Item 6. Trace evidence including multiple hair samples collected from the driver's seat headrest. Item 7. A receipt from Oakdale Mall Food Court, dated June 13, 1997, at 5:47 p.m. for a purchase totaling $842. Detective Morrison's case notes from June 15, 1997, include this observation. The vehicle appears undisturbed. All doors were locked. Keys were in the ignition in the off position. The presence of the victim's wallet with cash, along with her backpack and personal items, suggests she did not leave voluntarily. The vehicle's location at her high school is inconsistent with her stated destination of going to the public library. At 2:00 p.m. on June 15th, Detective Morrison interviewed Dorothy Zhang, head librarian at Cedar Falls Public Library. Zhang's statement, recorded in the case file, provided critical information. Jennifer was not scheduled to work on Friday, June 13th. The library was open until 9 p.m. that evening. I reviewed our security log and surveillance footage from the entrance. Jennifer did not enter the library at any time on June 13th. The last time I saw her was Thursday, June 12th, when she worked her regular shift from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. This revelation immediately changed the direction of the investigation. Detective Morrison's note from that afternoon reads, "Victim told parents she was going to the library, but library confirms she never arrived. This suggests possible deception about her actual destination or plans." Between June 15th and June 20th, 1997, Detective Morrison and her team conducted extensive interviews with Jennifer's friends, classmates, teachers, and family members. The case file contains 47 documented interviews from this initial phase of the investigation. Amanda Chen, interviewed on June 16, 1997, provided insight into their last conversation. When Jen called me Friday night around 6:30, she didn't mention going to the library. We talked about maybe going to the movies Saturday. She said she'd call me Saturday morning. That was it. If she was planning to go somewhere that night, she didn't tell me. Rebecca Walsh, interviewed the same day, stated, "Jen and I didn't talk Friday. The last time I saw her was at school Thursday. She seemed fine, normal. We said we'd hang out sometime over the weekend, but didn't make specific plans." School counselor Patricia Evans told Detective Morrison on June 17, 1997, "Jennifer had no behavioral issues, no problems with other students that I was aware of. She was a good student with clear goals. I can't imagine why she would run away, and I don't believe she would have." Drama Club advisor Susan Mitchell, interviewed on June 18, 1997, recalled, "Jennifer seemed happy with her involvement in the drama club. We had our end-of-year meeting on June 5th, and she had signed up to help with set design for next year's fall production. She was looking forward to it." Detective Morrison also investigated Jennifer's social connections beyond her immediate friend group. The case file includes interviews with 12 classmates who had various levels of contact with Jennifer. None reported any concerning incidents, relationship problems, or unusual behavior in the days before her disappearance. On June 17, 1997, Detective Morrison obtained search warrants for the Patterson family residence and Jennifer's bedroom. The search, conducted by crime scene technician David Reynolds and Detective Morrison, lasted 4 hours. The evidence log from this search includes Item 8, Jennifer's diary, covering entries from January 1996 to June 12, 1997, found in her bedroom desk drawer. Item 9, a spiral notebook containing college research, including handwritten notes about journalism programs at various universities. Item 10, photographs and personal correspondence stored in a shoebox under Jennifer's bed. Item 11. Jennifer's home computer, a Gateway 2000, seized for forensic examination. Detective Morrison's notes from June 17, 1997, after reviewing Jennifer's diary. Diary entries reveal a typical teenage perspective. Concerns about grades, college applications, friendship dynamics. No mention of romantic relationships. No indication of plans to leave or personal distress. Last entry, dated June 12, 1997, discusses excitement about summer break starting and plans to work extra hours at library to save money for college. The computer forensic examination, conducted by Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation Computer Crimes Unit, was completed on June 24, 1997. The technical report indicates the computer contained school assignments, email correspondence with friends, and internet browsing history. Investigator James Chen noted in his report, no evidence of concerning online activity. Email correspondence is consistent with normal teenage communication. No unusual contacts or suspicious communications identified. Search history shows research related to college programs and typical teenage interests. On June 18, 1997, Detective Morrison expanded the investigation to include interviews with Cedar Falls Public Library staff and patrons who might have been present on June 13th. The case file shows that 5 library employees and 12 library visitors who signed in that evening were interviewed. None reported seeing Jennifer at or near the library that night. Gas station security footage from locations along the route between the Patterson residence and the library was obtained through warrant on June 19, 1997. Detective Morrison's notes from reviewing this footage from Come and Go station at 1247 Main Street, located between victim's home and library, shows no sign of victim's vehicle passing during the time period of 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. on June 13th. Shell station at 896 College Street also shows negative results for same time period. Mall security footage from Oakdale Mall, where Jennifer's receipt indicated she had visited on June 13th, was obtained on June 20th, 1997. The footage confirmed Jennifer's presence at the mall's food court at 5:43 p.m. on June 13th. She was alone, purchased food from a vendor, ate at a table for approximately 20 minutes, then left through the south entrance at 6:07 p.m. This was the last confirmed video evidence of Jennifer Patterson. Traffic cameras operated by the Iowa Department of Transportation were reviewed for June 13 to 14, 1997. According to DOT records provided to Cedar Falls Police on June 21, 1997, no footage of Jennifer's vehicle was captured on any state or county roads during the relevant time period. On June 22, 1997, Detective Morrison organized a comprehensive search of areas between the Patterson residence and Lincoln High School. Cedar Falls Police Department coordinated with Black Hawk County Sheriff's Department and Iowa State Patrol. According to the operation report, 42 law enforcement personnel and 67 civilian volunteers participated in the ground search, covering a 15-square-mile area. The search operation, conducted over 2 days, yielded no physical evidence related to Jennifer's disappearance. Search and rescue teams with cadaver dogs covered wooded areas, parks, and undeveloped land. Divers from the Iowa Department of Natural Resources searched the Cedar River and several retention ponds. No evidence was recovered. Between June 23 and July 10, 1997, Detective Morrison investigated several potential leads called in through the police tip line. The case file documents 134 tips received during this period. Each was investigated and documented. Tip 47, received June 24, 1997. Anonymous caller reported seeing a young woman matching Jennifer's description at a truck stop near Waterloo at 11 p.m. on June 13th. Detective Morrison and Officer Martinez visited the location on June 25th. Security footage from the truck stop did not show anyone matching Jennifer's description. Tip classified as unfounded. Tip 78, received June 29, 1997. Cedar Falls resident reported seeing Jennifer's vehicle on Highway 20, heading west on the evening of June 13th. Detective Morrison interviewed the witness on June 30th. The witness could not positively identify the vehicle as Jennifer's and could not recall the specific time. Tip classified as unverified. Tip 103, received July 3, 1997. Anonymous caller claimed to have information about Jennifer's whereabouts, but refused to provide details unless granted immunity. Detective Morrison and Assistant District Attorney Richard Foster attempted to negotiate through the caller's attorney. The caller ultimately had no credible information and was determined to be attempting to exploit the case for attention. Tip classified as hoax. On July 15, 1997, forensic analysis results from the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation Crime Laboratory were received. The forensic report, prepared by senior forensic scientist Karen Mitchell, contained the following findings. Fingerprint analysis. All fingerprints recovered from Jennifer's vehicle matched either Jennifer Patterson or members of her immediate family. No unknown prints were identified. Hair analysis. 14 hair samples recovered from the vehicle's interior. 12 samples consistent with Jennifer Patterson. 2 samples did not match Jennifer or family members. DNA analysis not performed due to insufficient sample quality for 1997 technology standards. Trace evidence. Fiber samples recovered from driver's seat and passenger seat did not yield significant investigative leads. Fibers consistent with common clothing materials. The lack of physical evidence from Jennifer's vehicle significantly limited investigative options. Detective Morrison's notes from July 16, 1997. Forensic evidence provides no clear direction. No signs of struggle in vehicle. No foreign fingerprints. Hair samples insufficient for DNA with current technology. Vehicle appears to have been deliberately parked at school and locked. This suggests victim exited vehicle voluntarily at that location, possibly meeting someone she knew. On July 20, 1997, Detective Morrison interviewed Lincoln High School staff who might have been on campus the evening of June 13th or early morning of June 14th. According to school administrative records, the building was closed Friday evening. Custodian Michael Torres told Detective Morrison on July 21st, "I locked up the building at 5:30 p.m. on Friday, June 13th. The parking lot was empty when I left. I came back Saturday morning at 8 a.m. for summer maintenance work. I noticed that tan Honda in the student lot when I arrived, but I didn't think much of it. Sometimes kids leave cars there over the weekend." Security guard Daniel Wright, who conducted weekend patrols of the school property, provided a statement on July 22, 1997. "I drove through the Lincoln High parking lot at approximately 11 p.m. on Friday, June 13th, as part of my rounds. I did not notice any vehicles in the student parking area. I can't be certain, but I don't recall seeing that Honda. My next patrol of the property wasn't until Saturday evening." This timeline suggested Jennifer's vehicle was parked at Lincoln High School sometime between 11 p.m. on June 13th and 7 a.m. on June 14th. Detective Morrison's analysis, documented in her July 23rd case notes. Vehicle window narrows to approximately 8-hour period, likely in darkness. No witnesses to vehicle being parked. This suggests deliberate choice of location and timing to avoid detection. Between August 1st and September 15th, 1997, Detective Morrison pursued what she termed relationship angle investigations. Every person identified as having regular contact with Jennifer was thoroughly background checked and interviewed multiple times. Teachers, coaches, library staff, family friends, classmates, and neighbors were all scrutinized. The investigation paid particular attention to any adult male who had regular contact with Jennifer. English teacher Robert Caldwell was interviewed 3 times between August 3 and August 15th. Drama club advisor Susan Mitchell's husband, Peter Mitchell, a Lincoln High math teacher, was interviewed twice. Library supervisor Dorothy Jang's assistant, 24-year-old Thomas Bryant, was interviewed 4 times and underwent a voluntary polygraph examination on August 20, 1997. Polygraph examiner Lieutenant Frank Morrison of Iowa, Division of Criminal Investigation, administered the examination to Thomas Bryant. His report concluded, "Subject showed no deception in responses to relevant questions regarding Jennifer Patterson's disappearance. Subject demonstrated appropriate stress responses to control questions. Overall assessment: no indication of deception detected. Every interview, background check, and polygraph examination produced negative results. No evidence of inappropriate relationships, no suspicious behavior patterns, no inconsistencies in statements." On September 18, 1997, Detective Morrison received results from FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit consultation. Supervisory Special Agent Diana Foster reviewed case materials and provided a profile assessment. Her report, filed in the case file, suggested the organized nature of the vehicle placement and lack of physical evidence suggests a perpetrator familiar with police investigative techniques. The use of deception by the victim regarding her destination may indicate she was meeting someone she knew and wanted to conceal this from her parents. The absence of her vehicle from its stated destination and its ultimate location at her school suggests possible premeditation by the offender. By October 1997, the investigation had exhausted all conventional leads. Detective Morrison had conducted or supervised 203 formal interviews, reviewed hundreds of hours of surveillance footage, coordinated extensive ground searches, and pursued every tip that showed any credibility. On November 3, 1997, after 142 days of intensive investigation, Cedar Falls Police Chief William Carter held a press conference announcing the case was being classified as cold. According to the transcript of that press conference, archived at the Cedar Falls Public Library, "We have exhausted all active investigative leads in the disappearance of Jennifer Patterson. This case remains open and active, but without new evidence or information, we have reached the limits of current investigative techniques. We continue to ask anyone with information to contact the Cedar Falls Police Department." Detective Morrison submitted her final active investigation report on November 5, 1997. In her conclusion, she wrote, "All reasonable investigative avenues have been explored. No physical evidence has been recovered beyond the victim's abandoned vehicle. No witnesses have come forward with credible information about the victim's activities after 6:07 p.m. on June 13, 1997. No suspects have been identified. Without additional evidence, this case cannot proceed to resolution through conventional investigative methods." Case number 97-1847 was transferred to the Cedar Falls Police Department cold case files on November 10, 1997. The case box, containing approximately 800 pages of reports, interview transcripts, evidence logs, and photographs, was stored in the department's evidence room. It would remain there, untouched except for periodic reviews, for nearly 25 years. In the months and years following Jennifer's disappearance, her family maintained public appeals for information. According to archives of the Cedar Falls Gazette newspaper, Thomas and Margaret Patterson held annual press conferences on June 14th to mark the anniversary of their daughter's disappearance. They offered a reward, which eventually reached $25,000, for information leading to Jennifer's location or the identification of the person responsible for her disappearance. David Patterson, Jennifer's older brother, who was 20 years old at the time of her disappearance, told our team in a December 2022 interview. For 25 years, we lived with not knowing. Every June 14th, every birthday, every holiday, there was this empty space. My parents never moved from that house because they thought maybe, somehow, Jen would find her way home. They kept her room exactly as it was the day she disappeared. My dad died in 2015, and he never knew what happened to his daughter. My mom is 71 now, and for most of her adult life, she's carried this. When Detective Reynolds called us in September 2022 and said they had a break in the case, it was the first real hope we'd had in 25 years. The breakthrough. On March 15, 2022, Cedar Falls Police Chief Jennifer Morrison announced the formation of a dedicated cold case unit within the department. According to departmental press releases archived on the city's website, the unit was established with a grant from the Iowa Department of Public Safety's Cold Case Unit Initiative, a program launched in 2021 to provide funding for reviewing unsolved cases using advanced forensic technology. Detective Michael Reynolds, a 19-year veteran of the Cedar Falls Police Department, was assigned to lead the cold case unit. In an interview with our team in October 2022, Reynolds explained his background. I had spent 14 years in the investigations division, working major crimes, homicides, violent felonies. When Chief Morrison created the cold case position, I applied immediately. I had always been aware of the Patterson case. I was actually in the police academy in 1997 when Jennifer disappeared. It was a case that stayed with people in law enforcement locally. The idea that we could potentially solve it using technology that didn't exist back then was compelling. Detective Reynolds received 4 weeks of specialized training in forensic genealogy through a program coordinated by the FBI's Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, VICAP, and the DNA DOE project. According to training certificates in his personnel file, Reynolds completed coursework in genetic genealogy, GED match database utilization, and advanced DNA analysis techniques in April 2022. Upon returning from training, Detective Reynolds began a systematic review of unsolved cases in the Cedar Falls Police Department archive. According to his duty logs, he reviewed 23 cold cases between May 1 and August 15, 2022, evaluating each for potential biological evidence that could be suitable for advanced DNA analysis. On August 16, 2022, Detective Reynolds retrieved case number 97-1847 from evidence storage. In his case notes from that day, he wrote, "Patterson case presents strong candidate for genetic genealogy. Original investigation collected multiple hair samples from victim's vehicle. 1997 forensic report indicates 2 hair samples did not match victim or family. DNA analysis was attempted at that time, but samples were deemed insufficient quality for short tandem repeat (STR) analysis, available in 1997. Modern single nucleotide polymorphism (SNP) analysis may be possible with degraded samples that failed under older technology. The original evidence from case 97-1847 had been maintained in climate-controlled storage at the Cedar Falls Police Department Evidence Facility. Evidence logs show the items had been checked and verified during routine audits in 2002, 2007, 2012, and 2017. The hair samples, stored in sealed evidence envelopes, remained in stable condition despite their age. On August 22, 2022, Detective Reynolds submitted a formal request to the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation Crime Laboratory to re-examine the hair samples using modern DNA extraction and analysis techniques. His request, filed in the case record, specifically asked for single nucleotide polymorphism analysis for potential genealogical database comparison. The request was approved by Iowa DCI Laboratory Director Dr. Patricia Chen on August 25, 2022. According to laboratory records, The evidence was received at the DCI lab in Des Moines on August 29, 2022. Senior forensic DNA analyst Dr. James Morrison was assigned to the case. Dr. Morrison's laboratory report, completed on September 20, 2022, documents the technical process. 2 hair samples, designated as Evidence Item 6A and Evidence Item 6B from Case 97-1847, were received for analysis. Both samples were single hair strands with root material present, using advanced DNA extraction protocols designed for degraded samples. Genetic material was successfully recovered from sample 6A. Sample 6B yielded insufficient material for analysis. The DNA extract from sample 6A was subjected to whole genome amplification and SNP analysis. A partial genetic profile was obtained, sufficient for comparison against genetic genealogy databases. The successful DNA extraction was significant. Detective Reynolds's case notes from September 21, 2022, when he received the laboratory results. After 25 years, we finally have usable DNA from an unknown individual who was in Jennifer Patterson's vehicle. This changes everything. The hair strand that was too degraded for 1997 technology has now provided us with our first real lead in this case. On September 23, 2022, Detective Reynolds uploaded the genetic profile to GEDmatch, a public genetic genealogy database commonly used in law enforcement investigations. According to database records, the profile was entered at 10:47 a.m. with appropriate law enforcement notification as required by GEDmatch terms of service. Within 48 hours, the database search produced results. The genetic profile matched as a close relative to 3 individuals who had voluntarily uploaded their DNA results from consumer genetic testing services to GEDmatch. The closest match was identified as a second cousin, showing approximately 3.125% shared DNA. Detective Reynolds immediately contacted genetic genealogist Sarah Foster, a professional consultant who had worked on several high-profile cold cases nationally. Foster, based in Minneapolis, had assisted law enforcement agencies in 14 cold case investigations using genetic genealogy techniques. In an interview with our team in November 2022, Sarah Foster explained the process. When Detective Reynolds reached out to me on September 26, 2022, he provided the GEDmatch results showing these second and third cousin matches. My job was to use traditional genealogical research methods to work backwards from these matches to identify potential suspects. I began building family trees for each of the close matches, going back multiple generations to find common ancestors. Foster's work, documented in her consulting reports filed in the case record, took 2 weeks. She utilized subscription genealogy databases including Ancestry.com, Family Search, and newspaper archives. According to her September 30th progress report to Detective Reynolds, I have identified the common ancestors for the 3 closest matches. They all descend from William and Mary Thornton, who lived in Iowa in the 1880s. By building out the Thornton family tree and documenting all descendants, I can narrow the potential suspect pool significantly. On October 7, 2022, Foster provided Detective Reynolds with her analysis. Her report concluded, based on the genetic relationships observed and the genealogical research completed, the unknown DNA profile belongs to a descendant of William and Mary Thornton. Specifically, the DNA donor is a great-great-grandchild of the Thorntons through their son, James Thornton. I have identified 12 individuals who fit this genealogical profile and would be of appropriate age to potentially be involved in the 1997 case. All 12 individuals lived in Iowa at the time of the crime. Detective Reynolds' case notes from October 7, 2022. Genetic genealogy has provided us with 12 potential suspects. The next step is to narrow this list based on geographical location, connection to victim, and other investigative factors. Then we need to obtain confirmatory DNA samples from the most likely candidates. Over the following week, Detective Reynolds conducted background research on all 12 individuals identified by Sarah Foster. According to his investigation logs, he examined driver's license records, employment history, criminal background checks, and residence history for each person. On October 12, 2022, Detective Reynolds made a startling discovery. His case notes from that day reveal the significance. Individual number 7 on the genealogy list, Brian Christopher Thornton, born April 14, 1968, currently age 54, residing in Waterloo, Iowa, ran his name through our case management system. Thornton was interviewed during the original 1997 investigation. He appears in the case file as a witness. At the time of Jennifer Patterson's disappearance, Thornton was 29 years old and employed as the assistant principal at Lincoln High School. He was interviewed by Detective Sarah Morrison on June 17, 1997, as part of routine questioning of school staff who might have had contact with the victim. The discovery that a potential DNA match had already been interviewed during the original investigation transformed the case. Detective Reynolds immediately pulled Brian Thornton's 1997 interview transcript from the case file. The transcript, dated June 17, 1997, documents a 32-minute interview conducted at Lincoln High School. Detective Morrison's questions focused on Thornton's knowledge of Jennifer Patterson and his whereabouts on June 13, 1997. Detective Morrison: How well did you know Jennifer Patterson? Brian Thornton: I knew her as a student. Lincoln High has about 800 students, so I don't know all of them personally, but Jennifer was involved in drama club, and I occasionally interact with club activities as part of my administrative duties. She seemed like a good kid, no disciplinary issues that I'm aware of. Detective Morrison: When was the last time you saw Jennifer? Brian Thornton: I think it was Thursday, June 12th, in the hallway during the school day. I don't recall speaking with her specifically, just saw her in passing. Detective Morrison: Can you account for your whereabouts on Friday evening, June 13th? Brian Thornton: I left school around 4 p.m. on Friday. I went home, had dinner with my wife around 6:30. We watched television that evening. I went to bed around 10:30 p.m. Detective Morrison: Did you return to the school building at any time Friday evening or Saturday morning before the vehicle was discovered? Brian Thornton: No, I was home Friday evening and didn't come to school on Saturday. The building was closed for the weekend. Detective Morrison's notes at the conclusion of the interview stated: Subject was cooperative, provided clear answers, no indication of unusual behavior or inconsistent statements, no obvious connection to victim beyond normal administrator-student relationship. In 1997, without DNA evidence implicating Thornton, and with his alibi that he was home with his wife, there was no reason to consider him a suspect. Now, 25 years later, genetic evidence had placed him in Jennifer Patterson's vehicle. On October 15, 2022, Detective Reynolds prepared a strategic plan for confirming Brian Thornton's DNA and obtaining additional evidence. According to his case planning document, we need to obtain a confirmatory DNA sample from Thornton without alerting him to the investigation. Standard procedure would be to attempt collection of abandoned DNA through lawful means. Additionally, we need to re-interview Thornton's wife regarding his June 13, 1997 alibi and investigate further any possible connection between Thornton and the victim that wasn't apparent in the original investigation. The confirmation DNA sample was obtained on October 19, 2022. According to surveillance logs maintained by Detective Reynolds and Officer Jennifer Martinez, they observed Brian Thornton at a Starbucks location in Waterloo at 7:42 a.m. Thornton purchased coffee and a pastry which he consumed at an outside table. At 8:15 a.m., he disposed of his coffee cup and napkin in a public trash receptacle. After Thornton left the location, Detective Reynolds lawfully retrieved the discarded coffee cup from the trash bin. The cup, along with its lid and the napkin, was packaged as evidence and submitted to the Iowa DCI crime lab that afternoon. The confirmatory DNA analysis was assigned priority status. According to laboratory records, Dr. James Morrison received the evidence on October 19, 2022, and began analysis the following morning. His report, completed on October 24, 2022, was definitive. DNA profile obtained from the coffee cup matches the DNA profile from Case 97, 1847, Evidence Item 6A. The probability of this match occurring by chance is less than 1 in 450 billion. This represents positive identification. Detective Reynolds's case notes from October 24, 2022, reflect the weight of this confirmation. We have positively identified Brian Thornton through DNA. His hair was in Jennifer Patterson's vehicle. He lied in his 1997 interview about having minimal contact with Jennifer. He was the assistant principal at her school, in a position of authority and trust. He had access to the school building and grounds. His alibi relies solely on his wife's statement. This case has just become a homicide investigation, targeting a specific suspect. On October 25, 2022, Detective Reynolds requested authorization from Cedar Falls Police Chief Jennifer Morrison to expand the investigation into Brian Thornton. The chief approved the request and assigned additional resources, including Detective Lisa Chen and Officer David Martinez, to assist Reynolds. Between October 26 and November 15, 2022, the investigative team conducted extensive research into Brian Thornton's background, employment history, and activities in 1997. According to employment records obtained from Cedar Falls Community School District, Thornton had been hired as assistant principal at Lincoln High School in August 1994. He held that position until June 1998, when he resigned and took a position as assistant principal at East High School in Waterloo, Iowa. Detective Reynolds' November 1, 2022 case notes include this observation. Thornton left Cedar Falls school system in 1998, less than 1 year after Jennifer Patterson's disappearance. His employment file shows his resignation was voluntary, citing desire for career advancement. No disciplinary issues noted in his personnel file. His reference letters from 1998 are positive. On November 3, 2022, Detective Reynolds and Detective Chen traveled to Waterloo to interview Brian Thornton's ex-wife, Susan Thornton, now Susan Mitchell, not related to drama club advisor Susan Mitchell. According to the divorce decree on file with Black Hawk County Court, Brian and Susan Thornton divorced in January 2003. Susan Mitchell's interview, conducted at her residence and recorded with her consent, provided significant new information. The transcript of that interview contains the following exchanges. Detective Reynolds: We're reinvestigating Jennifer Patterson's disappearance from 1997. We understand your former husband was interviewed at that time. Do you remember that investigation? Susan Mitchell: Yes, I remember. The police came to our house and asked Brian questions. They asked me to confirm he was home that Friday night, and I said he was. Detective Reynolds: Was he home that entire evening? Susan Mitchell: Long pause recorded in transcript. I told police in 1997 that he was home, but I need to tell you something I didn't tell them then. Brian left the house that night. Detective Chen: Can you explain what you mean? Susan Mitchell: After we had dinner, around 7:30 p.m., Brian said he needed to go back to school. He said he forgot some paperwork he needed for a meeting on Monday. He left around 7:45 p.m. He came back around 9:15 or 9:30. When the police interviewed us, Brian told me to say he was home all evening. He said it would look bad for him, being at the school around the time that girl disappeared, even though he had nothing to do with it. I was young and stupid, and I backed up his lie. Detective Reynolds: Why are you telling us this now? Susan Mitchell: Because Brian and I have been divorced for almost 20 years, and I don't owe him anything. And because that girl's family deserves to know what happened to her. I've thought about this for 25 years. I didn't think Brian actually hurt that girl, but I've always wondered, if he was innocent, why did he need me to lie about where he was? This interview fundamentally changed the investigation. Detective Reynolds' case notes from November 3, 2022. Suspect's alibi has collapsed. He was present at Lincoln High School during the critical time period when Jennifer Patterson's vehicle was likely parked there. His DNA was in her vehicle. He had opportunity and access. We now need to establish motive and gather additional evidence. On November 8, 2022, the investigation team began interviewing individuals who knew Brian Thornton during his tenure at Lincoln High School. According to interview logs, 14 former staff members and teachers were contacted. Most described Thornton as professional and competent in his role. However, one interview provided disturbing information. Former English teacher Margaret Foster, who worked at Lincoln High from 1995 to 2000, was interviewed on November 10, 2022. Her statement, recorded in the case file, included this observation. Brian was always very friendly with the female students, maybe a little too friendly. Nothing I could point to specifically, but he would spend a lot of time talking with girls in the hallway, complimenting their appearance, that sort of thing. There were a couple of times I walked into his office and he'd be alone with a female student with the door closed, which was against school policy. When I mentioned it to him, he said he was just providing mentoring. I reported it to the principal once, but nothing came of it. This was a different time. People didn't think about these things the way we do now. Detective Reynolds obtained Brian Thornton's complete employment file from Cedar Falls Community School District through warrant on November 12, 2022. The file contained annual evaluations, performance reviews, and personnel records. One notation, dated March 1997, caught investigators' attention. It was a memo from Principal William Harrison to Thornton regarding maintaining appropriate boundaries with students. The memo stated, "This is to confirm our conversation of March 18, 1997, regarding professional conduct expectations. As discussed, all conferences with students should be conducted with the office door open or with another staff member present. This policy ensures proper oversight and protects both staff and students." The memo indicated that concerns about Thornton's interaction with female students had been raised before Jennifer Patterson's disappearance. Detective Reynolds' case notes from November 12, 2022. Pattern of inappropriate boundary behavior with female students was documented. This occurred 3 months before victim disappeared. The victim was a female student at the school where Thornton had authority. This establishes potential grooming behavior and access to victim. On November 14, 2022, Detective Reynolds requested authorization from the Black Hawk County Attorney's Office to seek arrest and search warrants for Brian Thornton. Assistant District Attorney Michael Foster reviewed the evidence compiled to date. His legal assessment, filed in the case record, concluded, "Sufficient probable cause exists to support arrest for kidnapping and murder. DNA evidence places suspect in victim's vehicle. Suspect had opportunity and access. Suspect provided false alibi. History of inappropriate conduct with female students established. Request warrants be prepared." On November 16, 2022, District Court Judge Patricia Walsh reviewed warrant applications and supporting affidavits prepared by Detective Reynolds. The applications, filed in Black Hawk County District Court records, requested authorization to arrest Brian Christopher Thornton and to search his residence at 2847 Maple Street in Waterloo, Iowa. Judge Walsh signed both warrants at 2:15 p.m. on November 16, 2022. The arrest warrant charged Thornton with first-degree murder and first-degree kidnapping in the death of Jennifer Lynn Patterson. The search warrant authorized comprehensive search of Thornton's residence, vehicles, and electronic devices. The arrest. On November 17, 2022, at 6:15 a.m., a tactical team from Cedar Falls Police Department, supported by Black Hawk County Sheriff's Department deputies, arrived at Brian Thornton's residence in Waterloo. According to the operation plan filed in the case record, the arrest was coordinated to occur early in the morning to minimize risk of flight or destruction of evidence. Detective Reynolds' arrest report documents the operation. Subject Brian Christopher Thornton answered the door after officers announced their presence. He was taken into custody without incident at 6:17 a.m. He was advised of his constitutional rights as required by Miranda at 6:18 a.m. Subject stated he understood his rights. Subject stated, "I want to talk to a lawyer." Following Thornton's invocation of his right to counsel, no interrogation was conducted. He was transported to Black Hawk County Jail and booked at 7:42 a.m. Booking records show he was charged with first-degree murder and first-degree kidnapping. While the arrest was conducted, a secondary team executed the search warrant at Thornton's residence. The search, led by Detective Chen and Officer Martinez, lasted 6 hours. According to the property receipt filed in court records, items seized included: Item 1, Dell laptop computer, serial number, redacted. Item 2, Apple iPhone, Model 13 Pro. Item 3, external hard drive containing digital files. Item 4, personal documents and papers from home office. Item 5, photograph albums from 1995-2000. Item 6, high school yearbooks including Lincoln High, 1996-1998. The digital evidence was submitted to the Iowa DCI Computer Crimes Unit for forensic examination. According to the forensic report completed on December 2, 2022, the examination revealed significant findings. Analysis of the external hard drive recovered from suspect's residence revealed multiple folders containing images downloaded from internet sources between 1999-2005. Many images depicted young females consistent with high school age. No illegal contraband was identified, but the collection suggests specific interest in teenage females. Additionally, a folder labeled LHS 1997 contained digital scans of photographs from Lincoln High School yearbooks, including multiple images of Jennifer Patterson that had been cropped and saved separately from other yearbook pages. Detective Reynolds' case notes from December 3, 2022. Digital evidence supports theory that suspect had specific interest in victim. The fact that he retained and separately saved images of Jennifer Patterson 25 years after the crime suggests ongoing fixation. Combined with DNA evidence and other factors, this strengthens the case significantly. Brian Thornton's initial court appearance occurred on November 18, 2022, before Judge Patricia Walsh in Black Hawk County District Court. According to court transcripts, Thornton appeared via video link from the county jail. He was represented by appointed public defender James Morrison. Public defender Morrison entered not guilty pleas on both charges on behalf of his client. Morrison also filed a motion requesting bail, arguing that Thornton had no prior criminal record and had lived in the community for decades without incident. Assistant District Attorney Michael Foster opposed bail, arguing, "The defendant is charged with first-degree murder and kidnapping. The evidence includes DNA placing him at the crime scene, a false alibi, and a pattern of inappropriate conduct with young females. The victim was a 16-year-old student in a school where the defendant held a position of authority. He has had 25 years to consider the consequences of his actions, The risk of flight is substantial. Judge Walsh denied bail, stating according to court transcripts, "Given the severity of the charges, the strength of the evidence as presented in the probable cause affidavit, and the significant sentence the defendant faces if convicted, I find that no conditions of release can adequately ensure the defendant's appearance at future proceedings or protect the community. Bail is denied." On December 15, 2022, a preliminary hearing was held to determine if sufficient probable cause existed to bind the case over for trial. Detective Reynolds testified for approximately 90 minutes, presenting the evidence gathered during the investigation. According to hearing transcripts, Detective Reynolds walked through the DNA evidence, the genealogical analysis, the confirmation sample, the false alibi revealed by the ex-wife's interview, and the employment history showing inappropriate conduct with female students. Public Defender Morrison cross-examined Reynolds, but did not challenge the scientific validity of the DNA evidence. Judge Walsh's ruling, issued at the conclusion of the hearing, stated, "I find that probable cause has been established that the crimes of first-degree murder and first-degree kidnapping were committed, and that there is probable cause to believe the defendant committed these crimes. The case is bound over for trial in district court." Between December 2022 and March 2023, both prosecution and defense engaged in extensive discovery and pretrial preparation. The Black Hawk County Attorney's Office, under District Attorney Richard Foster, assigned a team of 3 prosecutors to the case: Michael Foster, Sarah Chen, and David Martinez. According to pretrial filings in court records, the prosecution planned to present 1. DNA evidence showing Thornton's hair in Jennifer's vehicle. 2. Testimony from Susan Mitchell regarding the false alibi. 3. Employment records showing Thornton's access to the school. 4. Historical records of inappropriate conduct with female students. 5. Digital evidence showing Thornton's interest in images of teenage girls, including specifically Jennifer Patterson. 6. Expert testimony regarding forensic genealogy methodology. 7. Expert testimony regarding DNA analysis and statistical probability. The defense, according to their pretrial statement filed on February 15, 2023, planned to argue: 1. DNA evidence shows only that Thornton's hair was in the vehicle, not when it was deposited. As assistant principal, Thornton had legitimate reasons to interact with students in their vehicles. 3. Circumstantial evidence insufficient to prove murder beyond reasonable doubt. 4. No body recovered, no cause of death established, no physical evidence beyond single hair strand. 5. Digital evidence shows legal, if perhaps inappropriate, interest in yearbook photos, but no criminal conduct. On March 20, 2023, the trial of State of Iowa versus Brian Christopher Thornton commenced in Black Hawk County District Court, presiding Judge David Hamilton. According to court records, jury selection took 3 days, with 120 potential jurors summoned and questioned. The final jury comprised 8 women and 4 men, with 2 alternate jurors. The trial opening statements began on March 23, 2023. According to courtroom transcripts, Assistant District Attorney Michael Foster delivered the prosecution's opening statement for 47 minutes. Foster outlined the state's case. "Ladies and gentlemen, this case is about betrayal of trust, abuse of power, and 25 years of lies. In June 1997, Jennifer Patterson was a 16-year-old girl with dreams of becoming a journalist. She worked hard, saved her money, planned for college. On June 13, 1997, she told her parents she was going to the library. She never came home. The next morning, her car was found locked in the parking lot of Lincoln High School. For 25 years, her family wondered what happened. Today, we know." The defendant, Brian Thornton, who was the assistant principal at Jennifer's school, who had authority over her, who had access to her, was the last person to see Jennifer alive. We know this because his DNA was found in her vehicle, not his fingerprints, which might be explained away. His hair. A part of his body was in that car, and when police interviewed him in 1997, he lied. He said he barely knew Jennifer. He said he was home that entire evening. Both statements were false. Evidence will show he had inappropriate interest in young female students. Evidence will show he was at the school that night, not at home as he claimed. Evidence will show he deceived police for 25 years. At the end of this trial, we will ask you to hold him accountable for taking Jennifer's life. Public Defender James Morrison delivered the defense opening statement for 32 minutes. According to transcripts, he argued, "The prosecution wants you to believe that finding a single hair strand in a car 25 years ago proves murder. But where is Jennifer Patterson? The sad truth is, we don't know what happened to her. This case is built on speculation and circumstantial evidence. Yes, a hair that DNA testing associates with Mr. Thornton was found in Jennifer's car. But Mr. Thornton was the assistant principal at her school. He had legitimate reasons to interact with students. Hair transfer can occur through casual contact. The prosecution has no body. They have no cause of death. They have no eyewitnesses. They have no confession. What they have is a hair strand and a theory. That is not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. We will show that the evidence does not establish that Mr. Thornton harmed Jennifer Patterson, and we will ask you to return a verdict of not guilty." The prosecution's case began with testimony from Thomas Patterson, Jennifer's father. Now 74 years old, Patterson testified for 52 minutes on March 24, 2023. According to transcripts, his testimony established Jennifer's character, her habits, and the events of June 13, 1997. Foster questioned Patterson. "Tell the jury about Jennifer." Patterson responded, "She was a good kid, never gave us trouble. She was focused on school, wanted to go to college. She worked at the library to save money. She was responsible. When she didn't come home that night, we knew immediately something was wrong. Jennifer always let us know where she was. Always. That's not her car in that school parking lot because she decided to run away. Someone took her from us." Amanda Richardson, formerly Amanda Chen, Jennifer's best friend, testified on March 24, 2023, for 41 minutes. According to transcripts, she described her last phone conversation with Jennifer and characterized Jennifer's normal behavior patterns. Richardson testified, "I talked to Jen that Friday night around 6:30. We were making plans for the weekend. She was happy, normal Jen. She didn't mention going to the library or anywhere else that night. If she had plans to meet someone, she would have told me. We told each other everything. The idea that she would just leave town or disappear voluntarily is impossible. Someone had to have done something to her." On March 27, 2023, the prosecution presented its DNA evidence. Dr. James Morrison from the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation testified for 3 hours, walking the jury through the technical process of extracting DNA from the 1997 hair sample and comparing it to Brian Thornton's profile. According to trial transcripts, Dr. Morrison explained, "The hair sample collected in 1997 was too degraded for the DNA analysis techniques available at that time. However, using modern single nucleotide polymorphism analysis, we were able to extract a genetic profile. That profile was compared to a known sample from the defendant, Brian Thornton. The profiles match at all tested genetic markers. The statistical probability of this match occurring by random chance is less than 1 in 450 billion. Public Defender Morrison cross-examined the witness. Dr. Morrison, your DNA analysis tells us that this hair came from Mr. Thornton, correct? That is correct. But DNA analysis cannot tell you when that hair was deposited in the vehicle, correct? That is correct. DNA testing cannot determine timing. So the hair could have been deposited weeks or even months before Jennifer Patterson disappeared, correct? Theoretically, yes, although hair typically doesn't remain in a vehicle for extended periods without being noticed or cleaned. But you cannot scientifically rule out that possibility? No, I cannot scientifically determine when the hair was deposited. On March 28, 2023, genetic genealogist Sarah Foster testified for 2 hours, explaining how she used DNA matches from the GED match database to identify potential suspects and ultimately narrow the pool to Brian Thornton. Foster testified according to transcripts. The DNA profile from the hair in Jennifer's car matched several individuals in the database at the second and third cousin level. By building family trees and tracking descendants, I identified 12 individuals who could be the source of that DNA. Mr. Thornton was one of those 12. When Detective Reynolds researched those 12 people, he discovered that Mr. Thornton had actually been interviewed during the original investigation because he was an administrator at Jennifer's school. The DNA evidence combined with his connection to the victim made him the primary focus. The prosecution's most damaging witness testimony came on March 29, 2023, when Susan Mitchell, Thornton's ex-wife, took the stand. According to transcripts, she testified for 87 minutes. Assistant District Attorney Foster questioned her. Ms. Mitchell, in 1997 you told police that your then-husband Brian Thornton was home all evening on June 13, 1997, correct? Yes, I did. Was that true? Mitchell paused, according to the transcript notation, before responding. No, it was not true. What actually happened that evening? Brian left our house around 7:45 p.m. He said he needed to go back to Lincoln High School to pick up some paperwork. He returned around 9:15 or 9:30 p.m. When police interviewed us later, Brian asked me to say he had been home all evening. He said it would look bad for him to have been at the school around the time that girl's car was found there. Why did you lie to police? I was young. I loved my husband. I didn't think he had actually done anything wrong. I thought he was just being overly cautious. Now, 25 years later, knowing what I know, I realize I should have told the truth then. Morrison cross-examined aggressively. Ms. Mitchell, you and Mr. Thornton divorced in 2003, correct? Yes. The divorce was contentious? Yes, it was. You received no spousal support? That's correct. So you have reason to hold a grudge against my client? I don't hold a grudge. I'm telling the truth about what happened in 1997. But you waited 25 years to tell this truth? I was contacted by police in 2022 when they were investigating the case again. That's when I decided to tell what actually happened. Yes, I should have told the truth in 1997. I regret that, but I'm telling the truth now. On April 3, 2023, the prosecution presented employment and personnel records from Cedar Falls Community School District. Former Principal William Harrison, now retired, testified about the March 1997 memo he had written to Thornton regarding appropriate boundaries with students. Harrison testified according to transcripts. I had received concerns from some female staff members that Brian was spending a lot of time alone with female students. I reminded him of the policy that conferences should be conducted with doors open or with another adult present. He acknowledged the policy and said he would comply. I didn't think it was serious enough to take further action at that time. This was 1997. The awareness of predatory behavior wasn't what it is today. If the same situation occurred now, I would have documented it more thoroughly and notified the district administration. Former teacher Margaret Foster corroborated this testimony, stating, "Brian definitely paid more attention to the girls than the boys. He would compliment their appearance, ask them about their personal lives. At the time, some of us thought it was a little odd, but we didn't think it was dangerous. We just thought he was being friendly. Looking back now with different awareness, I can see it was inappropriate." On April 4th, 2023, the prosecution presented the digital evidence seized from Thornton's residence. Iowa DCI Computer Crimes Unit investigator Detective Robert Chen testified about the folders of images found on Thornton's external hard drive. Chen testified according to transcripts. The external hard drive contained multiple folders with images of young females, primarily appearing to be high school age. These were downloaded from public internet sources between 1999 and 2005. While none of the images constituted illegal material, the collection demonstrated a clear interest in images of teenage girls. Additionally, we found a folder labeled LHS 1997 containing scanned images from Lincoln High School yearbooks. Within that folder were approximately 47 images that had been cropped and saved separately. 23 of those images were of Jennifer Patterson. These images had been saved, organized, and maintained for 25 years. Public Defender Morrison objected multiple times during this testimony, arguing the evidence was prejudicial and showed only legal, if unusual, behavior. Judge Hamilton allowed the testimony, but instructed the jury that downloading legal images from the internet was not itself a crime, and they should consider the evidence only as it related to the defendant's relationship with Jennifer Patterson. The prosecution rested its case on April 5, 2023, after calling 23 witnesses over 9 days of trial. According to court records, the prosecution had presented 187 exhibits, including DNA reports, genealogy analyses, employment records, personnel files, digital forensic reports, photographs, and police reports. The defense case began on April 6, 2023. Public Defender Morrison called 8 witnesses over 3 days of testimony. According to transcripts, the defense strategy focused on creating reasonable doubt about the sufficiency of the evidence and the interpretation of the DNA findings. The defense's primary expert witness was Dr. Michael Foster, a forensic DNA analyst from a private laboratory in Chicago. Dr. Foster testified on April 6, 2023, for 2 hours. According to transcripts, he acknowledged the DNA analysis was performed correctly, but emphasized limitations. The DNA evidence proves that a hair from Mr. Thornton was present in Jennifer Patterson's vehicle at some point. But DNA analysis cannot determine when that hair was deposited. Given that Mr. Thornton was the assistant principal at Jennifer's school, there are numerous innocent explanations for how his hair could have been transferred to her vehicle. Secondary transfer is well documented in forensic science literature. For example, if Jennifer had been in Mr. Thornton's office and a hair from his clothing was transferred to her clothing and then later transferred to her car seat, that would explain the evidence without requiring any criminal contact. On cross-examination, Assistant District Attorney Foster challenged this interpretation. Dr. Foster, hair transfer of the type you describe, secondary transfer, typically requires direct contact, correct? Yes, generally. And the hair was found adhered to the fabric of the driver's seat headrest, correct? According to the reports, yes. Not just lying loose on the seat? Correct. That suggests primary transfer, not secondary transfer, doesn't it? It could suggest that, yes. And for primary transfer to occur, Mr. Thornton would need to have been sitting in that driver's seat. That would be one explanation, yes. Can you offer any innocent explanation for why the assistant principal of Lincoln High School would be sitting in the driver's seat of a 16-year-old student's vehicle? Not based on the evidence presented, no. The defense also called 3 character witnesses who testified that Thornton had been a dedicated educator and administrator during his career. However, on cross-examination, all three acknowledged they had not worked with Thornton during his time at Lincoln High School in 1997 and could not testify about his conduct during that specific period. Brian Thornton did not testify in his own defense, exercising his Fifth Amendment right. Public Defender Morrison stated in court on April 10, 2023, "The defense rests without calling the defendant. We believe the prosecution has failed to meet their burden of proof, and we will rely on that in our closing argument." Closing arguments began on April 11, 2023. Assistant District Attorney Foster delivered the prosecution's closing for 96 minutes. According to transcripts, he systematically reviewed all the evidence. Let's talk about what we know for certain. Jennifer Patterson disappeared on June 13, 1997. Her car was found locked at Lincoln High School. Brian Thornton's DNA was in that car, not his fingerprints, his hair, a part of his body. He told police he barely knew Jennifer, but he saved 23 cropped images of her on his computer for 25 years. He told police he was home that evening. His ex-wife testified he was at the school. He had a documented history of inappropriate interest in female students. These are not disputed facts. These are proven. The defense wants you to believe this is all coincidence, that somehow his hair innocently ended up in her car, that he innocently happened to be at the school that same evening, that he innocently lied to police about where he was, that he innocently kept images of her for 25 years. How many coincidences are you willing to accept? Jennifer Patterson disappeared from Lincoln High School. Brian Thornton's DNA was in her car at Lincoln High School. Brian Thornton was at Lincoln High School that evening when he said he wasn't. Brian Thornton had power over Jennifer as her assistant principal. Jennifer never came home. She was 16 years old. She had her whole life ahead of her. He took that from her, and he has lied about it for 25 years. The evidence proves beyond reasonable doubt that Brian Thornton is guilty of these crimes. Public Defender Morrison delivered the defense closing for 68 minutes. According to transcripts, he emphasized the lack of direct evidence. The prosecution has built a case on assumptions and circumstantial evidence. Yes, a hair that DNA testing associates with Mr. Thornton was found in Jennifer Patterson's car. But that hair could have been transferred innocently through his role as assistant principal. Secondary transfer is real. Cross-contamination is real. The prosecution wants you to believe that my client murdered Jennifer Patterson. But where is Jennifer Patterson? Where is her body? Where is the cause of death? Where is the murder weapon? Where is any physical evidence of violence? You have a hair strand and speculation. That is not proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Mr. Thornton may have exercised poor judgment in having images of students on his computer, but poor judgment is not murder. The prosecution has not proven how Jennifer died, when she died, or where she died. They have not eliminated reasonable doubt. I ask you to return a verdict of not guilty. The jury received the case for deliberation on April 12, 2023, at 11:47 a.m. According to court records, they deliberated for 17 hours over 3 days, requesting to review DNA evidence, trial transcripts of Susan Mitchell's testimony, and photographic evidence multiple times. During deliberations, the jury sent 2 written questions to Judge Hamilton. The first, received at 3:15 p.m. on April 12th, asked, "If we believe the defendant's hair was in the car, but are not certain when it got there, is that reasonable doubt?" Judge Hamilton responded in writing, "The jury must determine whether the evidence proves beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant committed the crimes charged. If you have reasonable doubt about any element of the crime, you must find the defendant not guilty." The second question, received at 10:22 a.m. on April 13th, asked, "Can we convict for murder without knowing exactly how or where the victim died?" Judge Hamilton's written response: "The prosecution must prove that the defendant caused the death of the victim. The prosecution is not required to prove the exact manner or location of death if the other evidence is sufficient to establish guilt beyond a reasonable doubt." On April 14, 2023, at 2:47 p.m., the jury notified the bailiff they had reached a verdict. According to courtroom transcripts, all parties returned to the courtroom at 3:15 p.m. Judge Hamilton addressed the jury. "Members of the jury, I understand you have reached a verdict?" Jury foreman, identified in court records only as juror number 7, responded, "Yes, Your Honor, we have." "Please hand the verdict forms to the bailiff." The bailiff delivered the verdict forms to Judge Hamilton, who reviewed them and returned them to the bailiff for reading. "The defendant will please rise." Brian Thornton stood with his attorneys. The bailiff read, "In the case of State of Iowa versus Brian Christopher Thornton, case number 22 CR 3847, on the charge of murder in the first degree, we the jury find the defendant Brian Christopher Thornton guilty." Margaret Patterson, Jennifer's mother, was observed crying in the courtroom gallery according to media accounts. David Patterson, Jennifer's brother, was seen with his head bowed. The bailiff continued, "On the charge of kidnapping in the first degree, we the jury find the defendant Brian Christopher Thornton guilty." Judge Hamilton asked the prosecution if they wished to poll the jury. Assistant District Attorney Foster declined. Judge Hamilton asked the defense. Public Defender Morrison requested the jury be polled. Each of the 12 jurors was asked individually if the verdict read was their true verdict. All 12 responded, "Yes." Judge Hamilton addressed the courtroom. "The jury has found the defendant guilty on both counts. Sentencing will be scheduled for a future date. The defendant is remanded to custody. Court is adjourned." Brian Thornton was immediately taken into custody by Black Hawk County Sheriff's deputies. According to media reports, he showed no visible reaction to the verdict. The aftermath. Following the guilty verdict, sentencing proceedings were scheduled for June 2, 2023. According to court records, both prosecution and defense submitted sentencing memoranda arguing for appropriate punishment under Iowa law. First-degree murder in Iowa carries a mandatory sentence of life imprisonment without possibility of parole. First-degree kidnapping carries a maximum sentence of life imprisonment. The question before Judge Hamilton was whether the sentences should run concurrently or consecutively. The sentencing hearing occurred as scheduled on June 2, 2023. According to courtroom transcripts, the proceeding lasted 4 hours and included victim impact statements from Jennifer Patterson's family. Margaret Patterson, now 72 years old, delivered a victim impact statement that lasted 14 minutes. According to transcripts, she addressed the court and the defendant. "For 26 years, I have wondered what happened to my daughter. I have imagined every horrible possibility. I have blamed myself for letting her drive away that night. My husband died in 2015, never knowing what happened to his little girl. That pain is something I wouldn't wish on anyone. Today, we finally know the truth. Jennifer trusted you. You were her assistant principal. You were supposed to protect students, not harm them. You took my daughter from me. You took her dreams, her future, everything she could have been. And then you looked police in the eye and lied about it for 26 years. You went on with your life while we suffered. I hope you spend the rest of your life in prison, thinking about what you did." David Patterson also delivered a statement, lasting 11 minutes. According to transcripts, I was 20 years old when my sister disappeared. I'm 46 now. Half my life has been lived without knowing what happened to her. Jennifer should be here. She should have gone to college, become a journalist like she wanted, had a family, lived her life. Instead, she's gone because you decided you had the right to take her life. I hope you rot in prison for what you did to my family. Assistant District Attorney Foster recommended consecutive life sentences, arguing according to transcripts. The defendant was in a position of trust and authority. He abused that position to prey on a vulnerable teenage girl. He then concealed his crime for 26 years, showing absolutely no remorse. He has never told this family where Jennifer's body is, denying them even the closure of laying their daughter to rest. The defendant deserves the maximum sentence the law allows. Public Defender Morrison argued for concurrent sentences, stating, "While the jury has found my client guilty, I ask the court to consider that Mr. Thornton has no prior criminal record. He has been a productive member of society for 54 years. He has maintained his innocence throughout these proceedings. Consecutive life sentences would be excessive under the circumstances." Judge Hamilton issued his sentencing decision after a brief recess. According to court records and sentencing transcripts, he stated, "Brian Christopher Thornton, you have been convicted by a jury of your peers of murder in the first degree and kidnapping in the first degree in the death of Jennifer Lynn Patterson. The evidence presented at trial established that you, as assistant principal of Lincoln High School, were in a position of authority over Jennifer. You abused that position. You took her life. You then lied to police for 26 years, showing a complete absence of remorse or accountability. You have never told this family where their daughter's body is, denying them the ability to properly lay her to rest. Your actions have caused immeasurable pain to Jennifer's family and to this community. On the charge of murder in the first degree, I sentence you to life imprisonment without possibility of parole. On the charge of kidnapping in the first degree, I sentence you to life imprisonment. These sentences shall run consecutively. You will spend the rest of your natural life in prison. Court is adjourned." Brian Thornton was transferred to the Iowa State Penitentiary in Fort Madison on June 5, 2023, according to Iowa Department of Corrections records. He is currently serving consecutive life sentences and will remain incarcerated for life. Public Defender Morrison filed a notice of appeal on June 15, 2023, as is standard procedure in murder convictions. According to court records, the appeal argues that the trial court erred in admitting certain evidence and that the consecutive sentences constitute cruel and unusual punishment. As of December 2024, the appeal is pending before the Iowa Court of Appeals. Legal experts consulted by our team suggest the appeal is unlikely to succeed given the strength of the DNA evidence and the proper conduct of the trial. What the case reveals. The case of Jennifer Lynn Patterson represents a significant milestone in cold case investigations and demonstrates how advances in forensic technology, combined with traditional detective work, can solve crimes that seemed unsolvable for decades. Dr. Patricia Chen, director of the Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation Crime Laboratory, explained the significance in an interview with our team in November 2022. In 1997, the DNA analysis techniques available required larger, higher quality samples than what we could extract from that hair strand. The sample was essentially useless to us at that time. Today, using single nucleotide polymorphism analysis and genetic genealogy databases, we can extract meaningful DNA profiles from samples that would have been deemed insufficient 25 years ago. This technology is revolutionizing cold case work across the country. Genetic genealogist Sarah Foster, who worked on the case, told us. Forensic genealogy has solved dozens of cold cases in the past 5 years. The Golden State Killer case in California in 2018 demonstrated the power of this approach. Since then, law enforcement agencies nationwide have been training detectives and investing in this technology. The Patterson case shows that even cases from the 1990s, before modern DNA technology was widely available, can be solved using these methods. According to statistics from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, there are approximately 45,000 unsolved missing persons cases in the United States involving minors. Many of these cases date to periods before advanced DNA technology was available. Law enforcement experts suggest that genetic genealogy could potentially help solve hundreds or thousands of these cold cases. Detective Michael Reynolds reflected on the case in a December 2022 interview with our team. When I pulled Jennifer's file from storage in August 2022, I read through Detective Morrison's reports from 1997. She did excellent police work with the technology and resources available at that time, but she didn't have the tools we have now. The DNA sample that sat in our evidence room for 25 years, considered unusable, turned out to be the key to solving this case. I think about all the other cases in evidence rooms across the country, sitting there with biological evidence that couldn't be analyzed before, but might be analyzable now. There could be thousands of families who could get answers. The case also highlights the issue of crimes committed by individuals in positions of trust and authority. Dr. James Mitchell, a forensic psychologist who has studied cases of abuse by educators, explained in an interview, "Research shows that predators often seek positions that give them access to and authority over potential victims. Teachers, coaches, clergy, youth counselors. These positions attract some individuals specifically because they provide opportunities for grooming and abuse. The warning signs in Brian Thornton's case were there in 1997, the complaints about inappropriate boundaries with female students, the closed-door meetings, but the awareness and policies we have today didn't exist then, or weren't enforced as strictly. This case should serve as a reminder that institutions must have robust policies and oversight to protect vulnerable people in their care." Cedar Falls Community School District Superintendent, Dr. Jennifer Morrison, addressed this in a statement issued after Thornton's conviction in April 2023. "The safety and well-being of our students is our highest priority. Since 1997, our district has implemented comprehensive policies regarding appropriate interactions between staff and students. All staff receive annual training on recognizing and reporting concerning behavior. We have clear protocols for supervision and oversight. While we cannot change what happened to Jennifer Patterson, we can ensure that we have systems in place to protect our current students." The Patterson family established the Jennifer Lynn Patterson Memorial Scholarship in June 2023. According to the fund's mission statement, the scholarship provides financial assistance to Black Hawk County high school students pursuing journalism degrees at Iowa universities. The fund had awarded 3 scholarships as of November 2024. Margaret Patterson spoke to our team in October 2024 about the scholarship. Jennifer wanted to be a journalist. She wanted to tell stories and uncover truth. We can't bring her back, but we can help other young people pursue the dream she never got to fulfill. Every year when we award these scholarships, we remember Jennifer and what she could have accomplished. David Patterson told us in the same interview, "Having answers doesn't take away the pain, but it does provide closure. We spent 26 years in limbo, not knowing. Now we know. We know what happened, and we know the person responsible is in prison for the rest of his life. That doesn't bring Jennifer back, but it means he can't hurt anyone else. And it means Jennifer's case is solved. She's not just a missing person anymore. She's a person whose life mattered, whose death mattered, and whose killer was held accountable. The case has also prompted review of other cold cases in Iowa. According to a statement from Iowa Division of Criminal Investigation Director Mark Foster, issued in May 2023. The Patterson case demonstrates the value of revisiting cold cases with modern forensic technology. We are currently conducting a comprehensive review of unsolved cases statewide to identify those that might benefit from genetic genealogy analysis. We owe it to victims and their families to use every tool available to pursue justice. Cedar Falls Police Department Cold Case Unit, under Detective Reynolds' leadership, has since reviewed 17 additional cold cases and identified 3 with viable DNA evidence for genetic genealogy analysis. As of December 2024, one of those cases has resulted in an arrest and is pending trial. Detective Reynolds told our team in November 2024, "The Patterson case changed how we think about cold cases. Evidence that was considered dead-end 20 or 30 years ago might be solvable today. I think about all the families out there living with the same pain the Pattersons lived with for 26 years. If we can give even a few of them answers, that's worth every hour we spend on these cases." Jennifer Lynn Patterson was 16 years old when she disappeared on June 13, 1997. She would have been 43 years old in 2024. According to her high school records, she aspired to attend Northwestern University's Medill School of Journalism. She wanted to be an investigative reporter. She never got that chance, but her case became the subject of one of the most thorough investigations in Iowa history. Modern forensic science, genetic genealogy, dedicated detective work, and the courage of a witness who came forward after 25 years combined to solve a case that seemed unsolvable. The investigation spanned 2 decades of technological advancement and demonstrated that even when conventional investigative techniques reach their limits, scientific progress can provide new avenues to justice. Brian Christopher Thornton, now 56 years old, will spend the remainder of his life in prison. He has never acknowledged responsibility for Jennifer Patterson's death. He has never told her family where her remains are located. That question remains unanswered. But the central question, what happened to Jennifer Lynn Patterson, has been answered. A jury of 12 citizens reviewed the evidence and determined beyond reasonable doubt that Brian Thornton, the assistant principal who was supposed to protect students like Jennifer, instead took her life. The truth that eluded investigators for 26 years was finally established through the intersection of cutting-edge science and traditional detective work. Jennifer Lynn Patterson's name is engraved on a memorial stone in Greenwood Cemetery in Cedar Falls, Iowa, placed there by her family in June 2023. The inscription reads, "Jennifer Lynn Patterson, March 3, 1981, June 13, 1997. Beloved daughter and sister, your dreams live on through those who remember you." This case demonstrates that justice, though delayed, can still be achieved. That even after decades, the truth can be discovered. That families who have suffered in uncertainty for years can find answers. And that those who commit crimes, even when they believe they have escaped consequences, can eventually be held accountable when science and determination combine in the pursuit of justice. The investigation into the disappearance of Jennifer Lynn Patterson lasted 26 years. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The verdict was reached after 17 hours of deliberation. The sentence was life imprisonment without possibility of parole. But for Margaret Patterson, now 73 years old, the meaning is simpler. I know what happened to my daughter. I know who took her from us. I know he will never walk free again. That's not happiness, but it's closure. After 26 years of not knowing, That matters. For families across Iowa and across the United States with unsolved missing persons cases, the Patterson case offers both hope and a call to action. Hope that advances in forensic technology might someday solve their loved ones' cases, and a call to action to law enforcement agencies to review cold cases with these new tools in mind. As Detective Michael Reynolds stated, "Every case in our evidence room represents a family that deserves answers. The technology exists now to potentially solve cases that couldn't be solved before. We have a responsibility to use it." Jennifer Patterson's family waited 26 years for justice. There are thousands of families still waiting. This case shows that we can give them what they've been waiting for. We just have to do the work. The case of Jennifer Lynn Patterson, case number 97-1847, is now closed. Solved through genetic genealogy, solved through persistent investigation, solved through witnesses finding the courage to tell the truth, and solved through a jury that carefully reviewed the evidence and rendered a verdict of guilty. 26 years after a 16-year-old girl told her parents she was going to the library and never came home, the criminal justice system has provided an answer. Brian Christopher Thornton took her life, and he will spend the rest of his life in prison for that crime. Justice was delayed, but justice was ultimately served. End